us as we gather together now and study. Please open our minds and please give us your Holy Spirit. Thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen.
I don't doubt that there's, as Mark was just saying, that there is limitations to our understanding because we're finite. But
There's certain things that are established, though.
yeah, they're established, rock solid. This is being the three angels' messages. What is this?
Everlasting gospel.
Everlasting gospel. But I mean, this is sin, righteousness, judgment. What else is it?
It's
Fear God, give glory to God.
Courtyard, holy place, most holy place.
culture.
Fear God, give Him glory. The hour's judgment is come. Okay, what is it in early writings, page 259?
Oh, it's
If you don't accept the first message,
You're not
you're
benefited
not
by
going to
the
accept the second.
yeah.
Okay, so this is the problem with saying that this is the binding off. Because these two waymarks have probationary time involved with them, where this one just manifests what you've developed in this probationary time. But that means they're all tests, but these are tests. Okay, and they're tests where you're given a period of time to take a stand on the test. Add to this, you have any evidence in the Word of God that when the Lord enters into covenant with you that He doesn't test you to see if you're going to uphold that covenant?
Yeah.
You do.
No.
Give me a passage where He just enters into covenant and He doesn't test to see if you're going to
I
uphold
said
it.
you do. It does happen. He makes sure
He makes sure what?
that you're being.
That He tests you.
Yeah.
Okay, so to say the everlasting gospel is the binding off, you are eliminated, and it happens all at the same time. Then there's no testing of these first two steps.
Oh man.
It's just a binding off your.
The thief on the cross? Well, how will we do that with him?
You go back in his history.
Yeah.
He
His life.
had
In his life.
the message given to him by who?
Christ. Wasn't it by Christ?
No, who gave the thief on the cross his message?
Mom.
His mother. His mother instructed him in these things. Where did he see righteousness manifested?
On the cross.
On the cross. He could see, based upon this message, he could see the distinction between
That
the
Barabbas.
thief and Christ.
Right.
Okay. And it led to judgment.
So, what about the people who were converted at Pentecost? Were they?
I don't
Jews,
know. I don't
would they
know.
be before that point?
I'm not going to expand this out to those kind of thoughts at this time. What I'm saying is, to even go back into this kind of discussion, you have to answer how these are. What's one of the bottom lines? God's dealing with men
Ever the
Ever
same.
is ever the same. The thought that's being interjected is that He's dealing with the Levites and the 11th hour's workers is not the same.
Oh, is that true?
That their everlasting gospel is their binding off. It all happens simultaneously, and they don't get tested on these first two steps. They're just bam. Okay, so you have to go in and find some justification. Though, and I know one justification, but it's not strong enough for me. And that's that all the messages are combined. Okay, I get that thought. But that is more to do with the structure of the prophetic illustration than it is as an excuse to eliminate the everlasting gospel. So,
But I also think to take one story and try to use that as your argument, you're denying line upon line. You've got to. The thief on the cross has been an argument with people for years and years and years, and only now we're beginning to understand it. You know that it doesn't. It's no different. We just don't fully understand it. That's what we have to realize. That we can't take that as an argument against what's established truth.
Right.
so the argument that's coming is that when the vision, when Christ appears to Saul, you can see the structure of that story, you can see the binding off for Saul. But it's a 3-step binding off in that story, and therefore the claim is, well, he's a Levite, So those 3 steps that are the binding off are also the everlasting gospel. Okay, but the line upon line tells me that Saul went through the everlasting gospel with the stoning of Stephen in advance of his binding off. The hard part about that is how we rectify the time from Stephen being stoned until he's on the road to Damascus, this blank area. But I'm more comfortable with the Lord going to clear that up.
Then what
As
do
we
we do with the
proceed.
3 years in Arabia when he was there studying with the Lord?
Also,
Just
there's
another
other
line.
things-
Other
there's
lines.
other lines.
How do you take the story of Gideon, which is absolutely airtight illustration of the Lord raising up the church triumphant at the end of the world, and after that story is all said and done, what happens with Gideon?
Falls away.
They go and they gather up all the jewels of the enemies, and they make him an ephod, and they make him a high priest, and Gideon, the symbol of the 144,000, becomes the symbol of the papacy, probably. It's line upon line. You have to rightly divide the word of truth. Okay, there's another interesting thing that came in to an email with Mark, but I'm gonna lead into this and see
Well, that guy's from the. Oh, right, I know you are. The 2 pillars?
well, maybe that too, but we're saying that we're now understanding that the reform line of Ezra 7:9 illustrates the sanctuary, right? And we got to settle into this whether it's valid or not. We're saying that at 9:11 in the Sunday law, there are 2 angels. This is the angel empowering the first message of our history. This is the empowerment of the 3rd angel. Everyone knows that. So you got an angel here and an angel here, and that these are the covering cherubs that are looking down upon the ark. Are we satisfied that this is valid?
No,
Go ahead.
I think that you can that even that illustration shows line upon lines. For instance, the Sunday law, the angel at the Sunday law, there is also the angel at the close of probation. There's also the angel.
Yeah, but that's not my
The Son of
point.
Christ.
Answer my question. Are we satisfied that the Lord is really put this in place?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we are, then Sister Tanya is always bringing something up. Well, she brings lots of stuff up. But one of the things she brings up is Solomon's temple. What's Solomon's temple have?
4 angels.
4 angels. So,
That's what we have on the 1850 chart too?
are those the 4 angels of Solomon's temple?
Yes.
It's interesting.
I mean, can we line upon line?
Yeah. I know there's 2 big standing angels there, right? Yeah.
There's
That's
4.
the ones you're talking. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
2 on the ark, but there's
Yeah,
2 standing ones here.
Okay.
Cool.
So, the part of the difficulty in the Lord's opening up this view of the most holy place, but I think He's opening up a view of the whole sanctuary, because what we've been studying with on the past couple of days, some of the activities of Christ are not simply activities on the Day of Atonement, perhaps, okay, because He's moving in these waymarks, okay, so I'm not so sure that we're not getting a picture of the sanctuary overall. So if I don't know how to do this, if we back out, if we zoom out to the entrance of the sanctuary before the holy place veil. There's 2 veils. There's a veil. No, there's 3 veils. So there's a veil into the courtyard, a veil into the holy place, a veil into the most holy place. So if this is the sanctuary right here, Solomon's temple had
2 pillars.
2 pillars.
Boaz and Jachin.
Okay, now, does anyone know right off the top of their heads which
I
was
think
Boaz is Boaz is on the left. Jachin is on the right.
left, depending on where you're
No,
looking at it from?
It,
Yeah,
it
in
lines
the
up
front of the
perfectly. 'cause
Looking in.
Yep.
Okay, this is Boaz.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
And this is Jachin.
Yep.
Okay, what's another word for Jachin?
Jehoiachin.
Jehoiachin, which means
Establish.
established. If this is a 3D, if that's the way to say it, you know, you're projecting your view into the most holy place, and out here you have these two pillars. What do you have with Boaz?
Well,
Ruth.
Yeah,
he's
Ruth.
the 11th hour workers.
11th hour workers. And so what's happening here in this history with the 11th hour workers?
The 2 sticks.
The two sticks are coming together. This is where the 11th hour workers are beginning to be plowed. What's happening here?
That God's people are being established to preach to the 11th hour workers. The 100th workers.
Sealed?
There's a, yeah, that's all true, but
Covenant.
what's established here?
Division.
What's established here?
The prophet.
The church triumphant.
Oh.
The church triumphant is established here. The same thing, yeah, but about what the verse that you put there is the verse, and it's talking about the church triumphant. Go to Isaiah 2, verses 2 and 3, maybe just verse 2. Yeah, it's verse 2. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be Jehoiachin in the top of the mountain, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. So-
Where did you just? Oh,
Verse
Isaiah
2:2. Okay, so if we do if we can periscope out, these pillars are emphasizing the same thing that these two angels or these four angels are emphasizing, and that's that this is the primary focus of prophecy, the midnight cry, which is consistent with the parable of the 10 virgins, so consistent with everything. This is the focus, the center point. So with these two pillars, we're seeing the two sticks coming together here. This is the plowing of the 11th hour workers, Ruth and Boaz. We're seeing the church triumphant established.
Okay, so my question is this. We understand that the ark is at the midnight cry, and the way we've been talking about it is that the angels are not the angels on the ark, and neither are they the angels in the holy place. They're two angels lifting back the curtains that are standing at the doorway. They're the ones lifting the veil. That's the way that we've been portraying the thought.
I haven't been portraying it that way. That's how you've maybe understood me.
That's how it's drawn. That's how it's
drawn. Okay,
how-
but
that's how
these are
it's
the
drawn.
covering cherubs, are they not? That's how I've understood it.
It's First Peter.
No, I'm fine with it being the covering cherubs. My point is that with the illustration that Noel made on the board, that's how it looked, because then you have the ark there in the middle.
Okay.
So my point was then, if we're understanding it like this, then the ark is 9/11 to the Sunday law, with the Shekinah glory being the midnight cry. That's how you've been understanding it then.
No, I haven't
You've just
said
illustrated it.
9/11 to the
We've
Sunday
just
law.
illustrated it that way, put the angels there because you stick them right on the ark, you know, it was just to give it some scope. That's the way that Noel drew it. But those two angels that he drew are the two angels on the ark.
On the ark. Okay, so then since that, then the other angels being outside makes sense. I'm just trying to like visually.
You
how
did
to-
this.
how to
You
map
did
up
this at the beginning,
Boaz and Jacob.
right after the presentation there, the first presentation on this on Sabbath, and I told you then, and I'm going to stick to it. You came up and you argued well, because we had put the ark up there, and I had put the Aaron's rod and the pot inside the ark, and you came up and said no, they weren't really inside the ark, and I told you what I'll tell you again. I'm not dealing with the technical placing of any of these symbols. All I'm doing is saying these symbols are in this area, and for me the Lord is opening this up, so I don't want to be held accountable by artwork to be saying this is what I was teaching based upon the artwork, because it's too
I'm
it's
just trying
too
to
open right now to do that.
I'm trying to understand how to mark when we're looking at the pillars.
Go ahead and
specifically.
understand that,
How do we
but don't
mark-
hold me saying that I'm saying
No, I'm not
that
hol-
the
I'm not
angels
saying-
were holding the veil
I'm
back.
saying, what are you saying? Is what I'm saying.
I'm saying that the most holy place has been opened up. It has these furnishings and things in it. We're placing them in there and we're trying to understand their relationship to one another and the prophetic message. And I'm not prepared to dogmatically argue anything about where these furnishings are.
Okay.
Even I think this is part of the story now. He's even showing us the courtyard. This is the courtyard.
I've thought that the cross with the two crosses left and right is also there somehow. I don't know how we show it, but it seems valid to me that Christ in the middle, he's the glory in the middle, and you've got these across either side. But
You can also show, on a fractal sense, that these two pillars are the two waymarks of midnight and midnight cry, which is cool, which fits right into that whole history, but also wisdom.
From Revelation 10, we know that Jesus' feet are pillars, and then it can be applied.
Here's Jesus' feet.
Yeah.
In Revelation 10, where he puts his feet upon the land and the sea, his feet are pillars.
And we also have a pillar of fire and a pillar of cloud.
A pillar of fire, a pillar of cloud. They're all right here because the pillar of fire and the pillar of cloud are in Abram's prophecy, the smoking furnace and the burning lamp, the presence of Christ.
I think the most valid story in the Bible of the two pillars is Samson. So where do we place Samson with his two pillars? Because that would give us a role.
Samson's two pillars, as I understand it, he's going to do a work against the papacy, and the two pillars of the papacy are spiritualism, the state of the dead, and Sunday sacredness. These two pillars are right here, and they're coming down as the church triumphant is raised up.
So they're the opposing pillars. There's the righteous
They're the counterfeit
pillars.
pillars. And they're the two walls.
Yep.
Because it's in here that the perfect fulfillment of the strong delusion comes in, and the strong delusion is spiritualism, and it's in this history of the Millerites where George Store's sermons are introduced on the state of the dead.
So is Samson a priest or a Levite?
So is Samson a priest or a Levite? What a thought.
Okay.
What is this? I don't know about that one.
The priest and the Levites both burned down Jericho, so maybe Samson is a symbol for both.
Maybe. Okay, so
Blessing has 3 articles on Samson that we
I
are
haven't read 'em yet.
editing through right now, and I can't remember what he says. It's been a while since I read them, but
okay, so
he answers this question.
Does he?
Revelation 10, his feet are as pillars of fire, right? Okay, but he puts his left foot upon
The sea.
the sea and his right foot upon, and how are we understanding the earth and the sea?
yeah, the earth is 9/11 there.
This is the earth. This is the sea.
No,
The fractal
No.
right?
oh, that's the tree. Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry.
And the
My
last
old
one,
way
the
of thinking.
trees.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
This is the trees.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Okay, so if he puts his which foot?
Right foot on the sea.
What?
Right foot on the sea.
Facing in.
The right foot on the sea and the left foot on the earth.
Where his backside is being shown, right? Like you're looking into the holy.
Then we're seeing him from behind.
Yep,
And here's where he's standing.
yep,
But he's standing in the courtyard,
facing in.
facing in. And what does this correspond to?
Reverse it.
Moses.
Did
See
Moses
the backside of him.
seeing the glory of the Lord, seeing the backside. Okay, so I wasn't going to go that level, but I did want to put this in the mix.
He's standing at the porch.
Yes, yeah, I was gonna say.
The threshold.
Yeah.
It's right in between there.
Yeah, the threshold. And the threshold.
It's 120 cubits, which is also neat in Solomon's temple. It's 120 cubits high.
What is?
The porch.
Where those
The
The
pillars
porch.
high pillars, so those, where the pillars are.
So, anyway, the reason I wanted to put this in the mix is if this is some kind of, and it is, 3D view into the most holy place, it's really emphasizing that this is the focal point, the midnight cry.
I don't know if this is so you can portray the sanctuary horizontally or vertically. You know, like you're saying vertically a 3D where it's coming out towards you, but horizontally you can show it this way along the line. And if you sort of put those together, it's kind of interesting. It makes a cross. You know, it's like the cross is the center of that whole history, and either way you look at it, that's what you're seeing.
It would make sense why the midnight cry would be the focal point, because that is where God's people finally get it together, and that's where they.
This is the church triumphant.
Yep. And so it makes sense, and then it all blends together from then on.
That's also the Sunday law, and it's also the
Yes, I'm saying, but the reason why it's the focal point, that's the real
That's where it
beginning.
begins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what he's saying, that the primary truths of this message are all right here. The Sunday law's here. That's okay, that's the primary truth. But the first Sunday law is here. This is where the Sunday law movement begins. You have the ark here, the law of God. You have the church triumphant here. You have a close of probation here. These are all primary truths.
Right.
They're right here marked, even though they're perfect fulfillments come down the road.
If you're standing at the gate or the veil of the court and you're looking straight down the middle, you see the altar of sacrifice, the brazen, what's
The
it called?
laver.
Laver, the brazen laver, the altar of incense, and the ark. And so when you compress it all together, you're seeing all four of those things that are directly down the center are all marking the midnight cry. The laver.
Where's the laver? Is it on the left side or the right side?
No, it's dead.
It's right in the middle.
The laver's right here.
Yeah.
So
It's the
yeah.
the brazen altar, then the laver.
Right there, right on the chart, on the 1850 chart.
Yeah.
on the
It's like-
1850 chart.
All four of those things are directly, and when you compress it down, then all of them are marking the midnight cry. If you're standing right like that.
Okay, so this is the altar, this is the laver.
Yeah.
Okay, so altar here.
Then the laver.
ER or AR?
Well, unless you're in the New Testament, then it's
Okay, that's good. Can't be wrong. Now, some people don't realize it, but the threshold here is a subject of prophecy. Okay, where did they find the Levite's concubine?
With the
With their
threshold.
hand on the threshold.
With their hand on the threshold, and in the story of the Philistines capturing the Ark of God. This is the Ark of God. Dagon repeatedly, the Lord busts up Dagon, the god of Dagon, and throws him down. And because of that, what do the heathens do from that point on? They don't ever step on this. They step over a threshold. Becomes a superstition to them. The threshold represents the power of God.
Big Than and Teresh.
Big Than and Teresh, tell us what that means.
Didn't one of their names mean threshold, like they were guarding the threshold or something like that? And then they were
Oh,
something like that. I don't remember. Is that right?
I'm wrong. You can be wrong about altar. It's AI.
okay. So in Solomon's temple, the threshold is 120 cubits.
Yeah.
Okay. High. And then you have, of course, you have a veil out here. And I hope I'm spelling that right. Probably not.
AIL? Is it?
AIL or IEL.
That's right.
And then you have a veil here. And a veil here. And all those veils are what?
Christ's flesh.
Dispensation.
The flesh of Christ.
And all you're missing is the lamp and the table of showbread, and they're on the right and the left. along with
Okay, the
arms.
lamp is over here. I'm
Just
didn't
lamp.
plan on doing this. And even if I did, it wouldn't change my artwork. But the
Table of showbread.
what is this over here? Everyone's saying the table of showbread, but what is it?
It's a throne.
It's the throne.
It's on wheels.
Okay, when Christ is doing his ministry before 1844, the throne is in here. But in 1844, where do they move?
Most likely.
Most holy place. This is the throne here, the ark. That being the crown. Okay, what else do we have here?
Altar of incense.
There's a cross right there.
There's a cross right there. Why does he say that? Oh, you're
It's
saying
making a cross.
you're saying
Oh yeah.
That's what I was saying.
artistically.
That's
That's what I was saying.
Artistically.
Horizontally
Okay.
and vertically. When you put them together.
But what does Sister White define the altar as? Oh, okay, well, we'll leave that one.
Christ.
Pardon me?
Well, they're all mention Christ. Maybe it's
Yeah.
something else.
No, I think it's a specific. I'm not going to say. I think it's the cross, but I don't want to say it. She specifically defines. She says the altar represents or whatever. And what else do we have in here? And we have it in the ark.
That altar's the cross. For sure.
Yeah, but she's.
You're talking about that.
We have what?
Commandments.
You have the commandments,
Two tables.
the little book. It's a book.
The rod.
The rod
Aaron's rod that budded,
and
and the pot of manna,
Moses' laws by the side of it.
and Moses' testimony.
Laws on the side. outside.
Testament, yeah. Okay, so all those things are in here.
I have a question. We have been labeling everything that when it hits the midnight cry, it's really a fractal of the larger. So what happens when you move your diagrams over to where they're perfectly reflected at the Sunday law? Where do your two angels end? We've got an angel at the close of probation, and where would that Solomon's temple fourth angel land? What waymark would he be on? Because all this should be able to move perfectly over to the Sunday law, correct?
Coming of Christ, maybe?
I don't know.
But this is a fractal. Are we in agreement that this is just a fractal of the true representation of the Sunday law, or are we not labeling this as a fractal?
No, this is the fractal. No, that's the argument he made a little bit ago, is that you have the first Sunday law here, you have the ark here, you have the close of probation here, all of the focus of the prophetic message is all marked here, but
begins
it's
there.
perfect fulfillment's over here, or it's over here with the close of probation.
Right.
That's what those things we were looking at yesterday. I think they demonstrate that.
Yeah, you're going to show us that in a moment.
What Brahma brought up was actually my question. Is it actually perfectly fulfilled at the Sunday law? Because this seems like the perfect fulfillment, and it's just typifying what happens at the
Yeah,
Sunday law.
that's-
Fulfillment at the Sunday.
I think we're teaching it kind of like that. You get the impression that this is
Why is this the perfect fulfillment? It is.
That's where the church triumphant begins.
This is the beginning of the church triumphant. This is the beginning of the climax of the parable of the 10 virgins. You have a first fruits here, don't you?
yes.
You have a first fruits here. Do you have an ensign lifted up here?
Yes. And
You have an ensign lifted
yes.
up here. I don't know about
You have
the
the same
view.
at the close of probation.
Pardon me?
You have the same at the close of probation.
It's all about
Because the 144,000 are all that's left at the close of probation, and they're lifted up before the whole world.
Not before the whole world. They're lifted up before the entire universe at this point.
Yeah.
They're an ensign for the universe.
So the pillars throw me off then, because if you were to put the pillars where they're supposed to be, they seem to be backwards. And they seem to be backwards to me when we studied Ruth too. And they still seem to be backwards. With Christ's right foot and his left foot there, we see an establishment of the 11th hour workers at the Sunday law, unless we move the pillars down to their perfect reflection, and then it would make a little more sense that you see the entire body of Christ established. I don't know how you're laying the pillars like
But
that.
the crossed over.
Why are we sure that Boaz
Yes.
and Jachin are on the left and the right
But
as
we've
you're
argued
looking
this
in?
before, and Ruth, we've considered that they seem to be backwards.
By your definition, if they're
Well,
if they're explained this way in the scriptures, then they're not backwards; they're rightwards.
They seem to be. I'm not.
There's two
arguing
two
with
ways to look at it. If you're standing outside looking into the sanctuary, they're on the right and the left. Is that how Solomon means it, or is he looking out But it seems like he'd be looking in. It doesn't seem like he'd be looking towards the sun and orienting
But
you
also
towards
the
that.
sticks.
So why is the
They
11th
cross
hour
over.
workers between 9/11 and the midnight cry? Why are the 11th hour workers
Yeah.
mentioned there?
No, I
What's
don't.
the purpose?
I don't think they are. That's not what it's representing. They're both at the midnight cry, but you've got the two sticks we know cross over at the midnight cry.
But why are the 11th hour workers mentioned at the 9/11 to the midnight cry? Because we're saying Ruth is the 11th hour worker, his left foot is on the earth. Why is that pillar there? What's the significance for us?
I think you're using the graphics of it to make a distinction that doesn't have to be there. These two pillars, this is all the midnight cry.
But they're distinct.
Yeah,
There's a
they're
left foot
teaching
and a
two
right foot.
truths here. They're teaching two truths here. This is the beginning of the gathering in of the 11th hour workers, and this is the establishment of the church triumphant. And this is what I was saying about him, what he did right off the bat, and he did it again this morning, which is okay. But as the line of the tribe of Judah is opening this up, we have to be careful about basing our conclusions on how we are graphically representing it. We don't have enough information yet necessarily to nail it all down. Okay, I have three hands at least. Kathy, Tanya, and Tyler.
Okay, Mark, what you just said is the sticks overlap. I know they join, but I've never seen where they overlap. I don't understand. What
Okay,
you
they
mean by
overlap.
They overlap.
This is the sixth to the last king, and the last king of Judah. Who is it? This is Zedekiah. This is for Adventism, and this is Chin. Okay, but this is the seventh to the.
Jeroboam
It should be
too.
the second to the last.
The second to the last.
Yes,
Or
we know.
second to the last and the last. And this is the seventh to the last for Israel and the sixth to the last for Israel. This is Jeroboam 2 and Zechariah. They overlap in
Okay.
this history.
Okay, I just had never ever heard of that before.
Okay,
so I didn't
Sister
understand
Tanya.
In relation to what Roman was asking in Ezra 7, we see that when he's gathering, the people that are brought back are the Nethinims to the 220. We see the Levites and we see the priests. They're all at 9/11, the first day of the first month.
Levites, priests, Nethinims. Nethinims are the 11th hour workers. How many Nethinims came out?
220.
220. What's 220?
Restoration.
Restoration. And when is the restoration of Daniel 8:14 marked?
Sunday law.
Sunday law. And what is restored?
The host.
The sanctuary and the host. This is the first fruits of the host is gathered here. This is the harvest of the host. They come together right here. So when Ezra comes out of Babylon, you have Levites, priests, and Nethinim. So there are some lines that are relating to all three groups right off the bat. There's some lines that are just emphasizing priests, emphasizing Levites. So marking that Boaz comes into the story here.
Well, you're marking it really a little bit over because
Yeah.
of his feet are there.
Yeah,
So
but
maybe in the binding
what do
off
you
here,
know?
it's
What do
his
you know about the
standing.
midnight cry? The discussion we had before we started recording everything
It's
this morning
midnight and the midnight
that
cry.
Tyler's doing. It's midnight to midnight cry. It's a point in time. It's a period of time.
So the pillars are on the two binding offs, actually. They're on the first four and the second four. That's where the pillars really stand then. Christ is standing more specifically in the binding offs.
This is what I was gonna say. This is my thing.
This is
help
your
with-
thing.
No, well, this is what I was going to say to you. To help with Brown's question about the orientation, if you take the smallest fractal of this, which is the binding off from midnight to the midnight cry, Boaz lines up with midnight, and Jachin or Jehoiachin marks the midnight cry, and we already have Jehoiakim marked at the midnight cry. So it's just another.
Why
it's a
does
second
Boaz line up with midnight?
Is it-
Because that's when Ruth went and that's when they had their interaction, right?
And she laid his
Yeah, no, he's the one.
Oh,
Don't
I'm
let
sorry.
him defend
I'm sorry.
himself. Why does?
I'm uncertain about Boaz, but Jehoiachin is marked repeatedly at the midnight cry, so it's just deduction. His name means fleeting,
working
so I'm
on
not
Ruth
sure
tests
what that
them
even means.
3 times, right?
Ruth what?
She tests those two daughters, right? That's what you're referring to.
We're talking to her
What-
interaction with Boaz.
I'm just marking. I'm saying Jehoiachin is marked at the midnight cry on several witnesses, so he should naturally line up there, since we see it's the porch that these two pillars are in, which is marked from midnight to the midnight cry. So it seems only right to mark him marking there, and then you would have Boaz as the other one. It's just I was doing it by deduction.
Came to pass at midnight.
What?
She went in, and it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. So
Yeah.
you absolutely could label that pillar at midnight,
Midnight.
and then the midnight,
Midnight
cry.
cry.
That makes more sense.
And
than
what
going around
this
like
is this is the covenant with the 11th hour workers.
that. But why is it coming?
This
to
is the
pass at
covenant
midnight?
with the church triumphant.
But how is the covenant with the 11th hour workers happening at midnight in the time of the priests? We haven't even reached the Levites yet.
But I
He
think-
hasn't said Boaz has not secured
Yeah.
her until
The
when?
covenant's two parts. It's
When does Boaz finalize his covenant? Where?
When he gets married.
Close of probation, isn't it? In the
Who's
story.
the witness? Here's what I'm trying to.
kinsman,
The
near
ten-
kinsman.
the ten
The
guys.
10 witnesses is down here. So this is a process. It's a process of entering into covenant. Tamina, did you ever hear that?
Yeah. First of all, like I think the two pillars, they represent the binding off, like the midnight cry, and then you can place them also at the midnight cry and the Sunday law.
That's what I
The
was
midnight cry and the close of probation. And the same thing I think God needs that the covenant of Boaz is mentioned first, because the Levites and the Gentiles, they don't go through the everlasting gospel like the priests did. They go like instantaneously. Is that what the English? Yeah. So he makes a covenant because they don't have the time like all those years like the priest did. So I think it's like faster. That's why we mark the covenant at the midnight. I don't know if it makes sense what I said.
And I don't know. I hate to do this because this is almost agreeing to some of his conceptual arguments. But if you have a 3D model, when it moves from the midnight cry to the Sunday law, there's probably a way that you just span out and it fits. You know, I don't know how to explain it. Sister Tanya, forget that one. I get it in my head, but I don't know.
As
I
long
just
as you
want to
understand.
point out that Brother Richard, when he saw the sanctuary of Moses, and now we're bringing the temple of Solomon.
Line upon line.
Well, I understand that, and I'm not disagreeing with that. But then we also have Ezekiel's temple. So we have 3 different temples in the Bible that we should really investigate to see where do they fit and who.
We have 4.
Right, but
You got the heavenly sanctuary.
But I'm talking in the Bible that are actually dealing with establishing how to put them together, how to be built.
Well, the one that Moses built, what was his pattern?
It was from
There's
heaven.
4.
But then Solomon's too, David was given instruction from the Lord how to do it. Ezekiel's the same thing.
Yeah, based upon what he just said, I agree line upon line. But I've been wanting to say this for a minute or so longer. I want to put it in the record before it's gone. If you see a doubling, okay, you see awake, or depart ye, is fallen. Jacob, what do you do with that?
Put it to the midnight cry.
You plug it into the midnight cry or second angel's message. You plug it in. Why?
That's
Because it's been established.
It's the same symbol, right? Okay, so what's this?
That's like a wall.
It's a pillar. What's this?
Another pillar. The two
At
pillars.
one level, they're right on top of each other,
Two columns.
line up on line, pillar. Okay, so they're right there together at one level. They're pillars.
Because he's joining them together, and Ezekiel thinks that they're not separate.
Yeah, they're connecting because like we're putting a foot on one side and then a foot on another. They're still connected.
They're
Yeah.
part of the same
So-
body.
Yeah, so I don't think we should struggle too much. The struggle for me, if you want to struggle about this, is why we're seeing his back. Tyler.
It's also, in a way, can make sense that the 11th hour workers are marked at midnight because they're going to be persecuting not only will the Levites be persecuting the priests, but the 11th hour workers or the world will be persecuting them because of this prediction they're making. So they're they're marked there in the sense of their participation, at least at one level.
Okay, we're about ready to move out of this so we can get to our task. Go
The
ahead.
last thing I want to say is that when Daniel and John see Christ, they see his feet as brass that have been burned in the fire, and the altar and the laver are made out of brass, and the altar is used for fire. And then if you go up, this is Christ, because the two pillars are his legs, right? Or is it his feet? His feet.
What about
But
legs,
two
feet?
different illustrations. But the point is, then what we're looking at is the Ark of the Covenant's Christ's head, and the altar of sacrifice is his feet. And so this is
the
his
pillars
body.
are his legs.
And my point is that if you're looking at a body, it's singular. It's one thing. So then all of them come
You're
together.
saying his body is the temple?
Yeah, his body is a temple. Is it not?
It is, and it's designed like that. When you study it like that, it is. That's
My
what
point is
it's
that
doing.
everything, there's no problem marking everything at one point in time, because you would mark one man, Christ, standing at the midnight cry, representing the entire sanctuary.
But what do you have to do? You have to follow him whithersoever he goes. So when he moves to here, that's what he's doing. He's moving
Yeah.
through the sanctuary. You got to follow him.
Yeah.
And this is one of my points. Right now, where has he taken us?
To the midnight
The midnight cry. There's probably things that that he's not showing us right now about the Sunday law that will bring this illustration into a better clarity. But it's obvious this is the focus of what he's trying to teach us now. Sister Tamina?
It's just logical that we see his back because the way how the sanctuary lines up, we need to enter through the veil, go through the altar and the laver. We walk in the sanctuary, and the high priest goes the same procedure, and he is standing before the Ark of the Covenant with the back to all what he went through. And the same as us, we need to go through the same procedure, and then when we're in the most holy, seeing him there, of course we see his back parts because he's ministering in there. It makes just sense that we don't see his face.
Yeah.
Why does it make sense that we don't see his face?
Because of how he enters.
Because we're told we can't see his face.
And when you follow
Yeah,
somebody,
you
you
can't
see
see his
his
face
backside.
either. Yeah.
But who was told you can't see his face, but that he sees me face to face? Moses. Moses says, if you see my face, you will die. And he's told that, but it's told of Moses that he saw him face to face. I don't get that one, Sister Tanya.
I have a question about, we know that the throne of God is on the north side, right? In the holy place, we see he is right on the showbread, which is on the north side, correct?
Okay.
And then if we go to the most holy place, now we're placing him on the east. If we're saying that he's behind that, is that correct? I mean, should we be doing that?
Should we be doing what?
Christ put him in the east. He's the righteous man that comes out of the east.
No, the Shekinah glory that we're saying that the
Okay,
throne-
you're saying that this is the north. That's what you're
I'm
saying.
assuming that north, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the altar of showbread is the north.
Yes. And we know that the glory of the Father is there, also the Shekinah glory.
That's the throne.
The throne, right, not the, yeah. And then we go into the most holy place.
Okay, this is now the throne.
Yeah.
And are you saying it has moved?
Yeah, it's moved, but according to the way we're saying is that the Shekinah glory, the throne is right above the Shekinah glory.
The
then he
throne
would be
is
on
right
the east.
below the Shekinah glory.
Then he would be on the east. Is that
Okay.
correct?
This is the Shekinah glory.
Yeah.
Can someone help her explain what she's saying? I'm not following her thought.
The ark is now at the east, facing from west to east. And when you look at the table of showbread, there's two piles of bread, right? The Father and the Son
Yeah.
sitting there. But as far as I understand it, it's sitting north, so they're facing that way towards the candlesticks. But now it's like they've moved.
You're saying that we have evidence that they're facing that way.
Well, no, as I understand it, I could be wrong because some of these illustrations are done by humans, but those two.
Okay, but we're going to go with this. So now you're saying he's moved into the most holy place, and which way is he facing now?
He's facing from west down to east.
This way.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have reason to believe that?
Well, if the two angels are
would be
looking in,
west.
then the Shekinah glory. And if you're, if the prophets are stood there and they're seeing in there and they're seeing His glory, then
It would be west, not east, yeah.
What
not-
would be
he's not gonna-
west?
Because
If this is the north,
south, east,
Then this is the
west.
south,
Yeah, then east and then west.
this is the west,
West, and then that's east.
this is the east, and you're saying he's looking eastward, but he's setting in the west.
Yes. Is that okay? I mean, I'm just asking. I'm not.
I don't know. I don't know I don't know what the question is to know whether it's okay or not.
Well, just because
These
we're
are
told-
observations at this point.
we're told that the throne of God is on the north side, and then we see it. We're clearly seeing.
Okay,
that
explain
it-
to me Isaiah 41. Don't go there. I'm going to tell you what to explain. How can he be the righteous man from the east that comes from the rising of the sun that comes from the north?
I don't know.
See, he comes from the north and the east at the same time.
Yeah, I'm just questioning. I didn't say that he was wrong.
But no, I know you're not. I'm not chastising you. I'm letting everyone think this through. He also comes from Paran, which is the south.
That's what I'm thinking. If you were to take this diagram you just drew and draw it as Christ's body, where his right hand is actually the showbread. He's got the little book in his right hand
Got
and his
stars.
lamp in the left. If you drew Christ as the sanctuary in this thing, he can turn on the line however he wants.
Well, wait a second. Before we turn him,
You can.
we're saying that in Revelation 10, he comes down out of heaven. He puts 1 foot here and 1 foot here. Now you're saying that in one hand,
If he's looking this way, in his right hand he has the table of showbread, and in his left hand he has the lamp. If we're looking at his backside, if we're drawing.
well, what's he have in Revelation 10 in his
A
hand?
little book,
Nothing more?
little book, and
No,
what else?
Just a little book. So you're saying that it has to be his
He's facing.
right hand.
It has to be facing this
Is
way.
everyone comfortable with that?
Because it's the yeah.
This is where the showbread is when he comes down. Does he come down in the time of does he come in the time of the holy place or the most holy place?
Holy
Both.
Both,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's he doing in Revelation? Sorry, Daniel 12. Then he holds the right hand and the left hand.
But it depends. If you draw his body like that, wherever he lands in that history, he'll be turned a different direction. He is the sanctuary.
I guess. I don't know that
That's
we.
your diagram.
No, I'm
You're saying the
I'm
pillars
getting
are his
input.
legs, and that veil is the bottom of his robe. That covers his feet. That's dressed. That's the way we've been learning about how we need to dress. You need,
So
the
it's-
veils are his priestly garments as we go up. That whole thing draws Christ. It does. You could.
Well,
see
yeah,
the
I'm not
picture.
arguing that. I'm not certain about Tanya's
That's his belt
observation
up there,
about
the
what
next-
does it mean that he's looking to the east.
You would have to turn his whole representation wherever his face.
Well,
is
his glory
facing.
comes from the east, and we know that the east is linked to Islam, and that's where his glory is the latter rain. So, I don't know.
Okay, we're evidently not there yet. No, I think I get what you're saying. I agree with you. He's moving. That's one of the things that I was trying to put in place right off the bat is that we can mark Islam in 1989 coming up.
Yeah.
9/11, Midnight Cry, Sunday Law. You can even mark Islam here, right?
It's fully released. Yes.
So what do you have at each of these places?
Smoke.
Smoke. So who is it that's associated with
High
producing the smoke? The priest. He's taking coals from the altar and some incense. So we're watching him move through this prophetic history.
Just
Alright.
to add on to what we were talking about, the pillars, in 1 King chapter 8 verse 41, it points out that the two pillars also had two bowls of the chapiters that were on the top of the two pillars,
Pomegranates.
and those two chapiters had a network of pomegranate,
That's the
each one of
things
them
on
at
his feet.
200 and 200, so it's
Yeah.
400 in total.
So where are the pomegranates?
On top of the chapiter.
They're on his veil too.
They're on but this is his feet.
They're on
Right,
his
but they're on
garment.
the bottom of that.
They're
yes.
the bottom. They're down here. This is the pomegranates.
And Ruth uncovered Boaz's feet
Mhm.
at midnight. I mean, I bet we're going to start seeing a lot of the feet being
So
shown
she
there in
uncovered the
Revelation.
pomegranates.
Because
She
because
She
the other side of the feet would be the 10 nations not cleaving. I mean 10 toes. It's the.
No.
Yeah, and the 13
Okay, you gotta do
days.
your
It's the
thing. Oh, wait a second. We got one more hand
Counterfeit
up.
to the real. There's the counterfeit to the real. That's what I'm trying to say.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Zechariah 14:4 says, "And the Lord's feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west, and there shall be a very great valley."
The Mount of Olives we mark at the midnight
Midnight
cry.
cry.
And the two
And the valleys,
the
the
two
valley of
angels
decision.
that Solomon made were made out of olive trees, overlaid with gold.
So if we could draw this picture of Christ and draw it actually labeled as his body, you could see him on the line.
Well, the only one.
Going up and down.
Well, there may be others,
Yeah, you could.
but I
I
suspect
know.
the one that has the genetic gift of drawing him would be Gabriel. Seems like from his dad on down, they're all artists. But this is the best I can do. We're trying to bring this to an
No,
end
I
so
know,
Mark
this
has
is-
his time, all
yeah.
right?
But it's interesting that we're gonna see the Mara vision based upon the lines. We're going to see Christ face to face, and what we're about to do is we're about to draw Christ on through his lines, which is significant. That's really neat. We're about to draw the body of Christ face to face with us on the board.
In the sanctuary,
Yeah.
and at the same time seeing his movements in the sanctuary. And Mark is going to tell us how he give us a starting point for discussion for the places that we see the lightning, thunderings, voices, earthquakes, and voices,
And hail.
and hell. We want to see if those 4 references in the book of Revelation actually can be tied into individual waymarks in this history. And Sister Brittany had a nice breakdown yesterday of it. I don't know if she shared that with you, but so we're probably going to have some feedback for what you're doing.
I just want to add one more point that the Ark of the Covenant, an extra layer was laid upon it after the rebellion of Korah, and the other ones, the 250 candles or whatever they were written down and they were
Censors.
They were placed over the Ark of the Covenant.
Well, there's one thing about the censer, that the smoke is, Tyler found this yesterday, in Leviticus 16:13, it says the smoke is to protect you so that you shall not die. The glory of God.
Yeah.
Just because we're
Smoke
there.
is protection.
Yeah, just because we're there, I just want to throw it out, just so we know. We talked about the priests and who's allowed to offer the incense. We found out yesterday, or at least it's my conclusion thus far, that the high priest is the only one who actually offers incense on the altar, but the other priests put it in their censer. So they don't offer incense upon the altar, they offer it in their censers, whereas the high priest offers it on the altar physically. Anyways, that's the distinction that I'm seeing.
Where did they get it from?
They must get it from the high priest. He's the one in control of it. Or it's already burning.
No,
on
they
the
don't
altar.
go into the altar and take it and put it in there.
No, I think they do take it from the altar,
From the altar down there.
but they don't.
From the altar down here?
No,
I
no,
think so.
no, they don't.
No, he's saying from down here.
I read yesterday that there's no burning coals on this altar up there. It's just the incense, but you don't light fire on there.
Well, how would the incense smoke if there's no coals?
There's coal.
Yeah, it is taken from the censer and put on there in order to burn, but there's not concentrated
Really?
coals.
So they bring in coals from here, you're saying,
If I'm not mistaken.
and they put it on here when they're going to do this work and then put incense with it.
It has to be holy fire,
Yeah.
and the holy fire lights up that altar there, so that at some point they'd have to take it from there and put it on there.
Jeff,
Okay, you're going to have to do it tomorrow.
altar of incense creates the smoke that keeps the priest alive. That's what Gabriel was saying. But it goes into the holy place, all this smoke, so it's
Most
covering
holy place.
the most holy place. Sorry. So what it's in effect doing is it's covering the face of Christ, so when you look at him, you can live.
Amen.
That's
We know
what
for a
it
fact
says
that only the
covers.
priests were allowed to see the holy things. only priests were allowed to enter and see the holy things. Whenever they would move things, they would have to be covered. Then the Levites could go in there and move them where they had to be relocated at.
Okay, smoke is protection. The
Islam is protection.
But it's
for God's
covering the
people.
midnight
It's-
cry.
Islam is protection. One other thing about Islam, just because you brought it up, the only place they can get the incense is from the Middle East. They have to stay in relationship with Arabia. But one of Ishmael's 12 sons' name means incense. Okay, so there's another connection there. Forget which one, but
The wise men, they came from the east. They brought
Yes, they brought
frankincense.
frankincense and myrrh
and gold.
and
Gold.
gold.
And myrrh.
Yeah, there's
Three
Frankincense
things.
and myrrh.
so there's something.
Just one more verse.
Wait, we can go now. I'm not going to try to make him do it in 15 minutes. If you want to finish this discussion off, you got other 2 cents. Let's finish this off so it's dead-ended before him tomorrow.
Just on east and west, Psalms 103:12 says, "As far as the east is from the west, so far hath he removed our transgressions from us." And that's exactly what he's doing in the sanctuary, removing our transgressions from the east to the west. And Ahasuerus also reigned from east to west, from India unto Ethiopia.
Which would
Nice.
make sense, 'cause the
Another proof.
that would show that basically the
What does that prove? Go ahead, Tanya. Throw it in. No, I want to follow this up. This is a good idea. Throw yours in first.
The
What does that
priest
prove?
The priest is with the back towards the east, facing the west, looking at the Shekinah glory, which makes sense. That's why the elders in Ezekiel, that they're bound down to the east, they're doing exactly the opposite that the priest should be doing.
Okay, so what are you saying, Brittany, from the verses you read?
Well, those are just two separate thoughts.
This is
one
the
was-
west up here, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, this is east.
yeah.
So as
The-
far as from west to east.
He removes our transgressions from us, and
So
then
from the west,
from the east to the west.
from the east to the west.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Moving
and
through
that's
the
also
the east is marked at the doorway when you come in. So
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
all the way
Courtyard
up.
to the whole.
Okay.
That's also
This is
what
in work.
his coming is described as in Matthew 24, from east to west. And then I just thought I would throw in there Ahasuerus, he reigned from east to west.
Another proof that Ahasuerus is the type of Christ. 'Cause we keep looking
127.
for it.
Okay,
What's this,
maybe
maybe
there's
it's,
120 that goes this way.
127.
Yeah,
Well,
I
it's
know.
Actually, Ezekiel
127 provinces, 120 and 7. Remember,
Yeah.
like we divide the 180 and the 7
Yeah,
and 120.
Maybe the 127.
The 7's someplace in the 100. Well, the 120 is marked at the threshold, so maybe that.
Here's the 120.
But
The
then
7 is the Sabbath.
would
It could be
be
marked as the
inside
ark.
the holy place, most holy.
The 120 takes you from here
The
to
threshold.
the threshold,
Yeah.
and from the threshold, the 7 is the holy and most holy place.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so Ezekiel 8, it talks. We know that the third and the fourth steps are tied together,
Interlocked.
interlocked. But I'm wondering about the second step because it's the chambers of idolatry, right? This is spiritualism.
Secret chambers.
Secret chambers. They're offering up their own incense, and the next thing that you see them doing is weeping for Tammuz, and then they're facing the opposite direction. So Christ is facing this way, and those who are following Christ are following him to his
Yeah,
back.
we're facing this way.
Yeah, we're facing this way, and we're seeing his glory, and the other ones turn and they refuse to see Christ's glory, and they offer up strange fire because there's incense that's rising up. It says in Ezekiel 8, there was a great cloud of incense. Hold on, I gotta find it.
Verse
11.
Verse
It's
11.
Verse 11? Yeah, 8:11. It says, "And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel, and in the midst of them stood Jazaniah, the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up." So they're offering incense to strange gods, which is strange fire, right? So they're whereas God's priests are facing this way, and the smoke's rising to protect them from the glory of God. The others they're facing the other direction, and they're offering up
The
incense.
counterfeit.
Counterfeits there.
And the
But the
70,
smoke
when
and
they're doing the
incense.
time of the 70, time of the Levite?
Pardon me?
I said, and the 70 doesn't mean that they're doing it during the time of the 70, which would be the Levites?
70 men of the ancients.
This probably means something like that.
When you said before with the faces of Moses, first he's not allowed to see God, but then he sees him face to face, but we are dead. When we see him face to face, I guess that's the binding off, because when we see him face to face in the Mare, we are as dead.
Yeah, there's a logic to what you're saying. I get that. Did everyone understand that?
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't answer my question. Prophetically, it may be accurate. Moses is told, you can't look on my face, so I'm going to show you my backside. Because if you look on my face, you'll die. But in other places, it says, Moses is not like other men.
Yeah.
I speak to him face to face.
Different point in time.
With smoke.
With smoke, veiling him. That would make more sense.
With smoke veiling him.
Yeah.
From the altar of incense.
Because he can't undo one saying of his own. One
Didn't
saying
he
can't
go
undo
up
another.
into
Yeah, but is it
cloud?
No one
different?
has
Is it not different points on the line?
Nobody has seen him face to face.
Yeah, maybe he's
Because
not seeing his face.
Nobody did. Nobody has seen God face to face because Jacob wrestled Christ in the dark and he said, I saw God face to face. But he couldn't see him.
Face
What
to
if
face doesn't mean
And
you can
Moses
see each
said,
other's
and Moses said that you talked face to face with God when he was in the on Sinai as the
On the
fire of the mountain. Yeah,
But they
Speaking
had,
to
that
them,
was
he was
at the
face to
burning
face.
bush. That was
But they didn't
there
see
was
his
the
face.
smoke there too.
you can't see his face and live.
It says in the Bible that no man
But you
has
can-
seen
So you
his
can
face.
talk to him face to face, but you have to
You're
just
assume
facing the
that
same
there's some
direction.
kind of protection.
Yeah.
You're facing the same direction.
Because really the only one that can
And Moses becomes
is
God.
Jesus.
Moses becomes God unto the people. And what do the people tell him to do?
Veil your face.
Veil your face. So he put a veil on from that point on. So God has a veil. You can pray directly to his face,
The veil is the smoke.
but the veil is the smoke. It's Christ's flesh. You can't see it, his face, and live.
And that's the humanity. When Christ he put on humanity to cover up his righteousness or his divinity, or else we would all have died when he came, or those people back then. If it was out in his full manifestation.
It's just a time.
We're told that the angels that were made for the Ark of the Covenant and for the Solomon Temple, they were not angels, but they were cherubim specifically. And in the Bible, the cherubims that we have example of are the ones that are in Ezekiel 1, where we have the ones with 4 faces.
Yeah, we got
So
4 over here and 4 over here, right? Or 4 over here, probably on this side. Both sides.
but
Go
you've
ahead.
got there's 4 cherubims actually in Solomon's temple.
Yeah, there's something about the 4s,
Yeah.
the binding off.
The pillars are four-sided, or
The
they're
4
round?
faces. There's 4 offerings for Abraham on both sides of the midnight cry.
Are they round pillars
Are they round
or
pillars
square pillars?
or square pillars? If they're square pillars, they have 4 sides.
Well, does the Bible tell us what they look like somewhere?
There's 4 horns on the
Yeah.
altar.
Oh,
There's 4. Yeah, okay. Then 4 is all over the place.
actually, it's got like lily flowers too, and there's a 4 something in there.
see are not square or round.
They're
Octagon.
Yeah,
All
but
kinds
the
of
Bible can make a
sides.
pillar any way it wants.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't say, then we don't know. If it does, we do.
Did Adam and Eve see God face to face in the garden?
Yeah.
Until what point?
Or was it literally
When's the
face to
last
face?
time someone seen God face to face? When they hid themselves, did they ever talk to him directly again, or were they hidden the whole time they talked to him?
Was Adam and Eve speaking face to face to God the Father in the garden, or were
Wasn't
they
it
speaking to Christ?
It was
I
Christ.
think it was
But are we talking about Christ here? Moses sees Christ or God the Father. I get so confused with this.
Did men see Christ face to face when he walked upon earth?
Yes.
But he was veiled.
No, he wasn't. Christ was
He was
veiled.
veiled with his
he was
humanity. He
veiled.
veiled his
Oh, okay,
divinity with
okay,
his
okay.
humanity.
Yes.
I'm talking about face to face.
Well, when he
Literally.
shone forth his divinity in the temple, they all fled, right? Because they couldn't behold it, right?
Divinity
Still
flashes
couldn't.
through humanity. They turn and run.
Yeah.
The thing it is that we're told that the Father and the Son are one. So if you see the Son, you see the Father
There you go.
at one level. You can relate it to it as that.
That kind of throws away not being able to see him then, though, because he saw
Yeah, but you read what Jesus tells his disciples. If you
Yeah.
see me,
Yeah.
because
seen the Father.
one of the disciples says, show us the Father, and he says, well, if you've seen me, you've seen
The
me.
Father is veiled
Yeah.
with smoke. If you see Christ, he's veiled with his humanity. He's veiled. When the crucifixion took place, what happened to the veil?
Who's torn
Right.
off?
It was
Right.
ripped.
Ripped.
Why? To prove you could look in there and not have a problem now because God was
Wasn't
gone.
hidden
He's
there.
not in there
Not
anymore.
in there.
So the veil was protecting people from looking in there and being destroyed by seeing God. His flesh protected the divinity from shining out. You can't look upon God's divinity face to face
Until when?
until you're glorified.
So at one level, basically, Jesus replaced the Ark of the Covenant because he was the one walking among them.
Okay, this is
Well, yeah,
a good discussion,
they're glorified.
but it's time to bind it off.
Huh.
They're with him forever.
Right, but then people have seen him.
He's saying, what about the people in heaven? That's went up in heaven.
Yeah, they can see him, right?
See him.
The angels always behold his face.
No, I'm talking
Yeah,
about
that's
the
the
people
24
taking
So you
elders.
just
see
answered
him,
you. That's it. The angels are there, so are the 24 elders. They have been
So
glorified.
people can and have seen God then.
And
Not
we're
on
not
earth.
saying that we won't be able to when
No,
it's
you
all
will
said
get
and
to.
done. Yeah, but at this point in time, we cannot.
Are the 24 elders redeemed?
Yeah, they got wings. And
Only those who have no sin in them can behold Christ.
Right.
Right.
Or behold
Right.
Or would burn
So at the
God.
midnight cry, the priests
Because
are
if you have any
glorified.
bit of any
Hmm.
worldly earthiness, you
That's probably a correct definition, but I don't think it's.
like the 24 elders, they can behold him because.
Yeah, but
Well-
they went
they've gone
through
the
a
process.
glorification.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
You're not just in their spiritual condition, but what else?
the
They're physical.
Their physical. The glorification includes being given a new body.
So you don't see Christ until the twinkling of the eye. That's the first time someone sees Christ face to face from this earth.
Here,
Because
here,
Unless
here,
they
right-
have been translated like
No, on
Enoch.
earth. On
Jeff.
earth.
Yeah.
it's like, it's here, on verse 12 of 1 Corinthians, for now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as I also have known. In other words, there will come a time where we will be able to, but right now we cannot.
Yeah, it's veiled by
It's
smoke
veiled
and by his flesh.
darkly.
You don't think that you can apply that verse at one level when the lines have been opened up that actually it's becoming clear?
You can.
No, you can.
You can.
Yeah, I think you can. At the midnight cry, once you're still in the sense that the verse is talking about, you're still seeing through a glass dimly, but you're seeing more clearly than anybody has ever seen.
Yeah, since 9/11, we know it's been opened up that every vision, the effect of every vision is beginning. And it's just progressive that it just gets brighter and brighter and brighter.
You can see through glass.
Clear.
Oh, there's
you
only
can
one other
smell.
question that I have right now, and that is, where's Sister Christy? I assume she's helping
She's not feeling
breakfast. She's sick.
rough.
Oh, okay.
God morning.
So, Sister Tanya, you want to pray?
Father in heaven, we come to you this morning thanking you so much for the light that you continue to open to our eyes and to our minds. Father, prepare us that we may understand what we see and what we hear, that we may know how to apply it practically in our own lives. Father, we all desire to go home with you. Please prepare us, for we long to go home with Jesus. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.